Hello, everyone, and welcome down to episode number 113 of the Down South Photo Show with me, Brendan Waits, here in Ocean Grove, Victoria, Australia, and the guy who is on your other screen or in your other ear. It's Cam Blake from Hobart Town, Tasmania, Australia. How are you, Cameron?
I'm good, thank you, Brendan. Good,
That's the way.
good, nice rhythm there. That was good. That flew straight off the tongue, didn't it? That one.
It never stops, the crap that comes out of here.
No, that is constantly dribbling. That's why we got
Yes,
beards, so we can catch all the
100%.
shit that falls out of our mouth.
100%.
Yes. How are you?
What?
You good?
Yeah, really well.
Yeah.
Straight off the top, thank you for everyone who has been enjoying our Three Capes Walk videos, part 1 and part 2 that went live over the last 2 weeks. That's why you haven't seen these mugs on the screens for a couple of weeks. So really enjoyed putting those videos together because you sort of get to relive the hype, which was great. But yeah, the feedback's been fantastic. And if you haven't checked it out, there's a link in the description for you to go and have a look at it.
Why don't we put a little link on the screen? Do you know how to do that?
Yeah, I do. I did it once and then it didn't work, and so I gave up. So yeah, there's a card just there. See, go and
Sure.
hit that.
Surely we can put a card up.
I've just did. Yeah, it's probably not there.
It's not there. It's a fair chance that's not there.
If you clicked on the card above, leave a comment below to tell me how good I am or how crap I am if you couldn't see one.
Yes, if the card's not there, please go to town on the comments on him, not me.
I saw some real YouTubers do that once, so maybe we're capable of it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. With people, I think a lot of people watch this on their big screen anyway.
Apparently so.
So like they'd have to like press it.
Yes, I got told in the shop yesterday by a lady customer that she fell asleep to my dulcet tones last night.
So many places we can go with that, but we're not.
Her husband was watching the show in the bedroom on the big screen that they've got in their bedroom. So
that's a bit weird, isn't it?
the mind boggles, Cameron.
Do you find it's lovely that people tune in, and I'm very gracious that they do, but
it is.
Do you find it a bit weird that people are watching us on the big screen in their bedroom?
Definitely. Thank you to all 769 of course, 769 of you are subscribed to this point. And thank you for tuning in, liking, subscribing, following, sharing the channel around, all that stuff we say every week. People right now are oohing and ahhing over your background, Cameron. So
no, they're not. They're oohing and ahhing over your background.
Without any further ado, I'm going to talk about mine first.
Good idea. This is going viral, this shot. This has been...
So this is a shot. If you were attentive on the Three Capes videos, you would have seen me taking that photo. I think there's a clip of me actually capturing this image. This is, so basically it's the view that overlooks Tasman Island. But at the base of the cliffs is this funky little island. I'm guessing it's got a name, but I don't know what it is. It wouldn't be any more than...
You didn't do your research?
No, I had to do a Where is Wednesday, apparently, from Parks, Tasmania to work out where it is. But anyway, another story. It's about 30 or 40 meters wide. Wouldn't be any more than that.
Pretty small. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love the way the water was playing around the edges of this island. You can see it all. Someone said the other day, it looks like you've dropped an island in the ocean and that's all the water sort of exploding away from it. But yeah. It's one of those images that came up exactly how I drew it up in my mind. So I was really stoked to get this. It's nice and sharp. And thank you to the OM system built-in neutral density filters for helping me get such a long exposure. Thank you very much.
There you go. Yeah, I can see that little island on Google Maps, but it's not named.
Oh, well, guess what?
It is now.
Down South Photo Show Island.
Well, do you know the bay that it's in? The bay's got a pretty cool name. I never noticed.
What is that?
That's Sheep Wash Bay.
Oh, that's cool.
I wonder why they call it Sheep Wash Bay.
I don't know, but there is a Sheep Wash Road in Barwon Heads just over here. So
do you reckon I just chucked the sheep in there and just gave them like a washing machine and dragged them out again?
I don't think they'd survive.
It's a fair drop.
Talk about a sheep dip. Struth. It's a long way down. Yeah, so cool. That was one of my favorite shots that I got on the Three Capes walk. Just one of many.
And very grateful. And you mentioned something about a Where is Wednesday. What's all that about? What happened with that?
So because I'm so hip with the kids and I do tagging, I tagged Tas Parks when I put this photo up on Facebook, and they saw it because they were tagged in it. And then it was quite funny because they actually contacted me to see if they could use it, and I didn't see the email. And then anyway, they used it, which is totally fine by me.
They used it anyway, yeah.
Yeah. No, well, they didn't use it anyway. They did reach out to me, which is totally fine.
But you didn't give them permission. They just went ahead and did it.
No,
Huh?
I did when after I saw the email after it went up. So
Oh, right.
it's
Okay.
it didn't worry me at all.
Okay. So,
Um,
so no controversy.
no controversy whatsoever. And what was I going to say? Oh, they couldn't tag camera and photo though, because that's a business, an enterprise
Ah,
outside of Tasmania, but they could put Brendan Waits on there. So
oh, that's why it was done that way.
yeah, so they actually played by their own rules. That's good, isn't
But
it?
that's just silly, though, isn't it? Who cares if the person's outside of Tasmania taking the photo?
Oh, I get it. That's all right. I don't
There's
mind.
too many bloody rules these days.
Yeah, and that image there, I'm not allowed to sell.
Yes, you can.
No, it's in a national park in Tasmania, and I don't have the right permit.
No, but you're on one of my tours, so you're covered.
Is that right? Is that the loophole?
That's the loophole.
All right. So if you would like to buy that image,
If you'd like to buy that, it's $1
have I
million
got a deal
for
for you?
you.
Uh,
Yeah, no, if we're on a tour, so any customers on a tour are covered under the license.
very good. Can we hold off on your background for reasons that will be
Hmm.
apparent later?
Guess we don't want to steal the limelight. That's fine.
We do not. We
No
have
problems.
got a uh, a couple of announcements to make.
Hmm.
One, much overdue, the announcement of the People's Choice winner for our summer comp, which we ran through January, and we didn't get to announce in February because we had a fair bit on.
Yes.
Um,
Well,
the
we're still
People's
in February.
Choice,
Technically, we're still in February now.
well, we are recording this on the 29th of February, which
February.
only happens every 4 years.
Hmm.
Um, what was I going to say?
Actually,
Thanks.
before you go any further,
You're
I'm
right.
going to do a shout out to Mr. Ian Wallace. I think he watches the show. It's his
Mhm.
birthday today.
Is he 10?
He's a 13-year-old, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's a
Fantastic.
13-year-old, and I reckon he acts around about 8. So, but happy, and he's got a twin sister, Barb, who also
Wow.
shares the same birthday.
Twins that were born on the 29th of February. That's
Yeah,
something.
yeah, and so she also runs, or she's heavily involved with and some people might know the Aurora Victoria page up there.
Ah, right.
Yeah, so small world. But
Interesting.
happy birthday to those two.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, you were saying something about the 29th February competition.
Yes, our summer
Mm.
competition, the People's Choice Award winner who wins a $100 voucher from Cameron.
That's right.
Well, it
From
says
me.
from me,
It does.
so
Yep.
that's ambiguous. From you.
From me. Yeah.
Seems you're giving away their voucher, would you like to announce the winner?
Yes, absolutely. This is the photo of the hay barrels
Which is
in,
there on the screen right now,
or maybe it's not.
right there.
Yeah, there's the beautiful hay barrels in that beautiful sunset scenario. Really nice shot. That was the People's Choice. David Oldenhoff. Sorry, I always think of David Hasselhoff.
Of course you would.
David Oldenhoff. David, I know you. You know me. Contact me, and I'll give you some vouchers.
And
But
just because Cameron knows him doesn't mean that there's anything
nah,
underhanded going on in this. This was the People's Choice winner.
no, it still cost me $100 to have a friend.
That's right, exactly.
But if you haven't seen David's work, David does some really, really lovely work down here in Tassie. So go check it out. He's got a Facebook page and Instagram and stuff like that, I believe. So go check him out, give him a like, all that kind of jazz. So
Congratulations to David.
do we have another comp coming up?
So this video goes live on the 1st of
1st of
March.
March. Perfect.
So welcome to March, everybody. And this video and this podcast. By the way, thanks for everyone who tuned into the audio only version of the podcast last week. If you YouTubers out there haven't picked up that we just laid down a secret little audio podcast last week, jump over to the pods and check it out. There ain't no video, but you can hear us talking.
I reckon they'll skip that.
I don't reckon they will. It was a very good episode, Cameron.
It's probably one of our best episodes we've done.
The fact that we
And,
both did it naked was a bit weird, but it was, you know,
but remember we had no backgrounds.
that's right.
It was fantastic. We didn't have to care about anything.
That's right. And literally let our hair down. It was good.
Yeah.
So the March comp, the theme for the March comp is Blue Hour. What the hell is Blue Hour, Cameron?
Well, does it go for 60 minutes?
Probably.
So Blue Hour would be we'll say generally, because it's not exactly an hour. It could be an hour and a bit. It could be less now.
Period of time.
Period of time before the sun rises and a
Yep.
period of time after the sun has completely set.
Correct.
Is blue hour. And generally what happens is the light reflects off the atmosphere a bit more and you get some beautiful light tones and sort of more cooler tones, and that's called blue hour.
Could you argue that the photo behind you was done during blue hour?
You could technically say it was blue hour because it
Yeah.
was just after the sun had set.
So the big deal about blue hour, as Cam alluded to, is the light being reflected off the atmosphere, but you are in the shade of the earth because the sun has gone down. So you can get some really cool, like deep navy blues
Mm.
and really cool colors. So
How does that work when the Earth's flat?
that's right. I know. We've just fried a few brains.
Yeah. Have you seen those idiots that try to dispel the bloody flat
Do
Earth
they
things?
really think that? That's surely at this point they're just taking the piss.
No, there's one. I watched one documentary on it where they had like two bits of board up on a stand, exactly the same height, and they shone the laser through it, and
Yes, I have seen that.
it's a flat. And then the guy's like, just
Hmm.
raise that board another meter, will you?
Yeah,
Or
that's
something like
right.
that. And a laser goes through it, and they go, okay, right. And that's the end of the whole documentary. It just
I
sort of
think we
stops.
just disproved our own theory. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it's blue hour's good fun. Yeah, it's generally when you get that beautiful soft light. We had a bit of blue hour when we rocked up at the shop behind you when we first got to that spot too.
Yes, we did.
So you got to get up early, and that's why we generally say with sunrise and sunset, you don't get there right on the time that the sun's setting or
Mm-mm.
rising. Give yourself an hour before and an hour after, um, and you'll find that once the light starts growing, it's really lovely, and you get some
Mm.
lovely shots. Yeah,
And generally speaking, in the warmer months, you get a longer blue hour.
yeah,
And that's when I actually really, I think we're coming into the prime time for landscape photography
right.
in the Southern Hemisphere. As we start rolling, well, 1st of March, we already said that. Goodness
Mm.
me, Cam, summer's done.
Yeah, what's summer?
Exactly. I
Yeah,
remember summer this year. It was a Wednesday.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
terrible.
Mm.
Yep.
It was just
Um,
gone quick.
yeah, but we're marching forward in the year.
We are.
We're getting. I'll tell you what's retarded, if that's a word I can use. Cut that out. No,
Can you
what
still use that word?
we have now. I'll tell you what. Tell you what. Well, it is a bit retarded. I'll tell you what's retarded is the autumn leaves down here are changing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like what the hell? Like what the actual hell is going
Yeah,
on?
I've noticed that as well. In fact, this evening I did a quick drive over to my framers who lives in the beautiful little town of Mauriac. Hello to anyone listening from Mauriac, about
Right?
half an hour drive from here. And yeah, I noticed up a few driveways, and
Yeah,
people sort of line their driveways with deciduous trees. And
yeah,
I saw, yeah, I'm like, hey, why are they really yellow already? Why are they
yeah.
really ready? What's
They've
going
they've,
on here?
they've been yellow down here for a couple of weeks already.
Yeah, it's going to
Even
be an
it,
interesting season in your traditional,
yeah,
like Bright and Dalesford and New Norfolk, where you are. Like
yeah,
how
yeah,
things are going to actually pan out.
yeah. I think we're in for a bit of a different seasons of the year.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say just put everything back a month. So summer is not December to February. It's January to end of March now.
I think so too, and
Mm.
that's proven by the fact that we are now getting the hottest days of the year here in
Yeah,
Victoria. Definitely,
yeah,
we've had a couple of really. Yesterday was horrible,
yeah,
fire weather, really,
yeah, yeah,
which I'm sure you're getting down there in Tassie as well.
yeah. It was a bit rough last night, but better
Awesome.
today. Mm.
I just wanted to we did just touch on the videos of the Three Capes walk. Just a little bit of a summary about all that, and probably to wrap it all up and put it to bed, sort of thing, so to speak. Still living large in your memory, Cam, that awesome walk down the Three Capes.
Oh, not really. I've moved
Yeah,
on.
moved on. Yeah, fair enough.
Um, next topic. No, no, it's yeah, it has, yeah. I spoke to Five Star Dan today, and he was talking about it again.
Good.
So yeah, like it really is a nice walk, and I've had a few people. Um, last night my kids did some swimming practice or swimming lessons, and one of the dads was there from their school as well. And I was telling him, he goes, "Oh, do you reckon I could take the boys down there?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful walk." So yeah, I think the more now that we've been home for a few weeks, the more I think I'll definitely do it again sometime.
Yeah.
Because I think it's worth another trip along there. And now you know what you're in for, and time wise and location wise, you can sort of, I think what we could have done maybe different on the first trip is take our time even more.
Yeah.
Like that first day, you could just dawdle the whole way, really.
Oh, you could dawdle each day. You don't.
Yeah,
Well, maybe not the third day. I think that because you're out and back.
yeah. But if you get up
And
early like we did, like
well,
we're back at the cabins by 10 o'clock that morning.
well, we still had people coming in, like with a couple of hours of daylight to spare at the third night hut. So
That's right. Yeah.
yeah, you could quite easily take it a lot easier. Having said that, we got some amazing weather, and a few people have said to me, "Gee, you nailed the weather on the Three Capes," which leads me to believe that that's not that common.
Probably not. It's a pretty brutal kind of part of the world when it wants to be. If you were there last night, if you were there last night at that blade, you would have got some of the most incredible photos ever taken in Tasmania, I reckon.
Yes, yes.
But we
It
weren't.
it would have been pretty spectacular down there last night.
It was incredible.
Well, I think it's there's only one thing for it, Cam, and that's we tackle it again in a really bad season,
All right, let's do middle of winter,
2027 or something,
2027. If you can
when we
handle
can
the 150k gust winds, you'll be right.
fit it in. Yeah. So
Yes.
again, thank you for everyone who joined
Mm.
us on that trip. Cam, your background, please. Can you reveal all and get your beautiful face out of the way so people can see?
Right, yeah. There you go. There's my background.
What a shot.
It is a shot from last night down here. We had probably one of the best storm displays I've seen since I've been down here. Lots of lightning, lots of fork lightning. Unfortunately, I don't know, didn't set any fires off by the look of it, but um, right, one of those storms that happens just on the end of the day, so you get that beautiful color left over, that blue owl, like you said. And yeah, I got in the car. I thought I'm going to go for a drive here, and I didn't have to go too far. I went like 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes down the bloody road, and there was all these bolts happening. I'm like, okay, I've got to stop the car and get out here, otherwise it's just going to go over the top of me. And so I set my camera up. I literally did 4 frames and went, right, I'm done. I can't get any. It's passed over my head. It was moving away from me. So that was it. I did 4 frames, and out of those, I got two pretty good shots and two sort of mediocre shots. So
Yeah. Absolutely awesome, man. Like, and
mm.
as just you've told me this several times that Tassie doesn't get a lot of big storms like that.
No, we don't. Like, well, up at the north. So, like I've said that before, that where you get storms, the north of Tassie times sometimes gets the tail of that.
Yeah.
So I'd say the north end of the Tassie gets a lot more storms down the bottom here, but not many here. And when they do happen, generally when they do happen, they're quite sharp and intense. But this one just had a few fronts come through. So it was like one storm and then another one and another one. So for about 2 or 3 hours last night, we had a bit of lightning in the sky and a few rumbles around the mountains. So I saw a really, really cool shot last night. I don't know who the person was. It was on one of the social pages, but the Jack Jumper basketball team played down here and
They
they
did,
won.
yes.
So
Yes.
they lit up the Tasman Bridge green and yellow as the colours of the team. And someone's got a picture of that bridge with a cruise ship behind it with Mount Wellington silhouetted with lightning over the top.
Oh, goodness. All right.
It's stunning. I'll see if I can find it. We might be able to chuck it on the website and on the Facebook page and show people. But it was real. I looked at it. Funnily enough, I looked at it and went, "Oh, I'm not looking at that again," because that makes me feel very inferior. So, but yeah. So I got lucky.
But did theirs make it to the ABC News? No.
Not yet. I reckon it will though. In all honesty, it probably should have made it before mine did.
Yeah.
I don't know if whether or not they might not have even taken even tagged ABC in it or not, but
Yeah.
it was a stunning shot. But there's another one. Toby is a guy who lives down in the Huon Valley, I think. He got some great shots as well. So people are out and about, but I was really lucky. I had to literally go down the road and I pulled the car over. I'm like, I'm going to stay here and set the camera up and just let the storm roll towards me. And then when my hairs and my arms started standing up from the static electricity, I got in the car.
Yes. And left your camera outside the car?
Well, yeah. So a good question about it. I had someone ask me about the camera today and how I shot that. And I used the OM system OM1, but I use what's called a live composite mode. So the live composite mode, what it does is it's pretty clever. So it just builds a composite in front of you on the screen. It just builds and builds and builds. So the way it works is you take a photo, set your composition up, get it how you want it to look, and you take a base exposure. So what I did is I exposed pretty much for the water and the bridge and the grass seeds in the front, or the grass reeds. And then what you do is you press the button to sort of lock in that exposure. So you go, that's the base exposure I want. And then I dialed in every 2 seconds. I wanted the camera to take a shot. And it was F11 at 2 seconds or something like that at the time. And what it does, every time something brighter enters that frame, it adds it on to that base exposure. So so you have the base exposure because obviously lightning's brighter than anything. So any bolts of lightning that came along, it just added them into the frame. And then when you think you got enough, you just press stop, and it just puts together a raw file, and away you go. So um, it works pretty cool. It's a pretty cool feature. I've used it a couple of
It's
times
a
before.
it's a sensational feature. It's
Mm,
actually, when you think about it, it's quite clever.
yeah,
And Olympus do that quite well. They've got a few, computational photography uh, things that help you to take better photos
yeah.
computationally, and that's definitely one of them. So, question: it does generate you a raw file?
It does give you a raw file. The one thing I will say about it that, and maybe I can do it here. Let me see. The one thing, I'll quickly just change my background photo for a second and show you the other one I took.
Sure.
Um, and where is it? There somewhere. So there is one thing you need to be wary of, and that's one thing I learned last night that I have to be a bit more conscious of if I'm going to do lightning shots with that. So here's the other shot. And you can see on the right-hand side of the frame above the bridge, away from the opposite side of the sunset, you can see the clouds are quite streaky and quite straight. So what it does, because it's taking a photo every couple of seconds, I've found if you do it for too long, the movement of clouds can actually become a bit jerky. They sort of get like waves of them. And one of the shots I took was like, oh, like, that looks really weird. So I had to stop. I could have left it going for hours, but it just looked really whack. So I had to stop it. So that's one thing you have to be a little bit aware of with that feature, is not to let it go too long. And I think it's probably best suited more so for really dark scenarios like nighttime stuff where you can't really see the definition of clouds and stuff. But it's a very cool feature. And if you're doing lightning shots, it's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah. When I run my entry level workshop, we do brief. I put up a photo on the screen, similar to yours, but with maybe 9 lightning bolts in it.
Right.
And because I'm teaching people photography, I ask the question, right? How was this captured?
Yeah.
And then you can see them stop and think, and then long exposure. And
Yeah.
it's one thing that people probably don't sort of wrap their head around immediately. It just takes a bit of time to think that
Mm,
what you're actually looking at is an exposure over time,
yeah.
and then any extra light that came into the frame.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have an Olympus. You don't have to have an OM system camera that's got
No.
live comp. You can, of course, you can just um, ideally, you take your long exposure photos, as Cam said, when it's darker.
Yeah.
You can use an ND filter, but I think that will have some kind of color cast effect on the actual lightning bolts. So
Yeah.
preferably not. So
Yeah.
shooting at sunset, well after sunset would be ideal when you get so if you can line it up so a thunderstorm is coming through after sunset, which is quite common here in Australia. We do
Mm,
get a lot of storms of an evening, with fronts that come through after a hot day and stuff like that.
yeah.
The first tip I give to people, though, is the first thing you need to do when you're going to take lightning photos is check your life insurance policy. So just make sure that's all up to date.
Well, yeah. So there's one other thing I've noticed with especially the OM system with the ND filters and stuff like that, because it's doing computational photography. Um, you do start getting those funny artifacts that I'm talking about, because
Yep.
it's not a true long exposure as such. It's building exposures on top of each other. So if I'm shooting lightning and I'm heading off to Darwin next week to go do some storm chasing, ideally what I want to do there is just have a pure traditional long exposure where light's just hitting the sensor for a continuous period. Whereas these computational modes, it's stopping and then adding, stopping and adding, and stopping and adding. So you do get some funny artifacts. I would like if OM systems could design something in there, like their firmware or their updates or something like that, to fix that problem.
Yep.
Because they are super cool features. It's just that little bit that I reckon that lets it down, that if you leave it going for too long, you just get those sort of jagged sort of clouds going through. But
Yep.
but
Can you combine two? You probably can't. I was going to say, can you combine live comp with Pro Capture? So
I
you know what
don't.
Pro Capture is?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think you can.
Okay.
But I know that people that do Lightning use Pro Capture in its normal sense,
Which is pretty cool.
which is cool because Pro Capture captures 10 or 20 shots prior to you fully depressing
Yeah.
the button. So like I've heard stories of pretty well known photographers trying to take lightning shots and trying to use their fingers as timing to get it. Like, you're never going to time the lightning bolt we see is the one that's actually going back up to the sky, not the one
That's right.
that's come down. So you're never going to get it. So that pro capture is pretty cool, where you can actually hold it and go bang.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you've got 20 frames before that one. The shot behind me though, the reason why this one worked out the best, because that is just one strike. So it's one continuous strike. It's not a computational or a series of strikes. So
Yeah.
I think that's the one that turned out the best, or I guess the cleanest in the way it looks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my advice for lightning shots as well, like definitely need a tripod.
Yep.
So you got to get that set up. You can either use some of these computational modes that you might have on your camera, or you can just do bulb exposure. The way I used to do it years ago was just chuck it on a 2-second timer, do like a 10-second exposure at whatever aperture you needed to get it to, ISO down low, and just continuously do 10-second exposures. You get lucky, sometimes you don't. The one thing that used to annoy me more than anything is the 2-second self timer was when the strikes happened, and then your 10 seconds you got nothing. So it can be a bit hit and miss. There's a lot of tools out there now. I've just been talking to another great photographer in Darwin, Louise Denton. She's got a beautiful gallery up there, and she's actually just put something out online now about the top 3 locations outside of Darwin for lightning shots and storm watching.
How's that for timing?
Good timing. I actually spoke to her a few minutes ago saying that I'd catch up when I'm up there. So yeah, so she's actually just bought this little device on top, like a light trigger.
Yeah, I've seen these. Yeah.
So
Interesting.
that's another way you can do it as well. But it is good fun. It can be a bit hit and miss, and you're going to get wet most likely, and it's going to get windy. One big thing I've noticed with lightning storms and cold fronts and stuff like that, just as soon as that wind starts cranking up, it's getting pretty close, and you need to start packing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to get drowned.
Well, in this day and age, with a lot of manufacturers making, particularly their high-end pro cameras, weatherproof, you literally can sit in the driver's seat of your car while your camera's outside on a tripod, shooting away using Bluetooth on your phone as your trigger.
Yeah.
Well, with this and things like that.
With this one, I literally just let it go, because you only have to press once and twice to start and stop that thing. So I just pressed it. I went sat in the car for 5 minutes, came back out, pressed it again. Like it was just out the window, side the window, pretty much.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So it's sort of cheating, but it's all good.
No, not really.
Yeah,
you're using the tools of the trade to get the shot.
That's right. I'm using the technology available to me at the time,
and you absolutely got the shot. So
yeah, I was pretty happy with that. And it was one of those moments where you're just like, well, I'm not going to do better than that. I could wait around for another storm, but I can't be bothered.
Well, I reckon over the journey, and I've been taking photos for quite some time, I think I've got maybe 2 lightning photos, and both of them are rubbish, like really bad. So that's on my bucket list as well to achieve. We've got some really talented photographers here in Ocean Grove. Shout out to Pete James, who watches the show. He's got some incredible lightning photography from Ocean Grove and Barwon Heads. Mainly because he's a maniac and puts himself right in the line of fire. But it's awesome. He's got a shot, the 2 bridges at Barwon Heads that we take people to on our workshop. He's got a bolt of lightning right in between the 2 bridges. So
that's pretty handy.
Yeah, very, very cool. And I about 2 years ago, I went out storm chasing. Me and my boy went out, jumped in the van, went out storm chasing, because the storms were just everywhere. It was fantastic. There was lightning going off everywhere. Got in the car, but left home 10 minutes too late, and got to the location, got out of the car, and got absolutely drenched. Like it was awful. We were in the storm, not ahead of the storm. You need to be ahead of the storm.
Yeah, you do. Absolutely, you do. I love storm chasing. I think you're like, when you get older, you're just going to do golf course photography. I reckon when I get a bit older, what I'm going to do is just storm photography. I love Mother Nature at its worst.
Yeah.
And so you really got to get out in front of it. You got to watch the weather. Like last night, credit to myself, just watching the storms roll through, watching the direction they were coming in, and knowing when to leave. Like this storm that came over here, I left when it was further away from Bothwell, where that golf course is. It was coming down from there. I'm like, well, its trajectory is going to be coming over here, so I'm going to head out this way. And got lucky. So you got to be in it to win it, but you got to plan a bit as well.
You did well. And just as one further aside, there is a photographer who's based in the Northern Territory who's taken a lot of lightning photos. His name is Steve Strike, and I'm not making that up.
Steve Strike.
And I just Googled him to make sure I didn't dream that, but that is
Right.
true.
Steve Strike.
Steve Strike Photography in the Northern Territory. So he's got a
Right.
few cool lightning photos. So there you
Yeah.
go. Um,
He was born for it.
so sorry,
He was born for it.
he certainly was.
Yeah.
Uh, want to talk a little bit, if we can, Cameron.
No.
So on the weekend, I was very, very fortunate to once again host the wonderful Glenn Lavender at my shop, who ran his natural light portrait
Yep.
workshop again,
Yep.
because it keeps selling out. So we keep doing it again, and he just keeps on coming down, which is fantastic. The feedback we get on that workshop is brilliant. But one thing that he talks about a lot, and one tool that he uses a lot, is higher ISO photography. And I
Right.
wanted to talk to our audience, Cam, about what ISO is and what it can actually do for your photos, and how it can help and how it can hinder you sometimes, particularly when it comes to landscape photography. So
Right.
if we just talk about portrait for a second, the way one of the techniques that Glenn has when he does natural light portraits is basically he meters for the light that's on the face of the subject, and that affects the background no matter what. But his
Yep.
focus, literally, pardon the pun, is on the face of the subject. So
Right.
he wants to get that metered correctly. So he uses spot metering, he uses manual mode, and he sets the exposure correctly. The problem is, quite often he's in such low light conditions that exposure value, the shutter speed might be below 1/60th of a second.
Right.
And I teach that 1/60th of a second is the cutoff for handheld photography.
Right.
I don't care how steady you think you are. If you're shooting below 1/60th of a second, there's going to be camera blur. You're going to get a bit of shake and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So what he talks about is boosting the ISO so that you can bring that shutter speed back over 1/60th of a second, and sometimes even take it higher
Yeah.
if you want to generate a completely black background in the shadows, for example. And he
Yeah.
talks about shooting at crazy high ISOs, 3200 ISO, 6400 ISO, just to maintain those higher shutter speed values.
Yeah.
So for those of you playing along at home who are saying, what the hell are you talking about? Well, ISO literally relates to your camera sensitivity to available light. If you want to make the pixels on your sensor more light sensitive, you boost the ISO. So if we go back to the good old days of film, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who listen along to this channel who are familiar with film.
That's some film. Yep.
You're looking for some film.
Oh yeah, I was looking. I got my film camera just out of reach. Yeah. There you go.
So back in the day, when I used to, years ago, you'd go in and buy a roll of film. This is 400 ISO film, and you would buy film that was appropriate to what you were going to shoot. So if the person selling you the film was worth their salt, they would say to you, "Oh, where are you taking photos? Oh, I'm going to go down to the beach. It's bright and sunny. Here's 100 ISO film.
Yeah.
Going to shoot the Grand Prix. Here's 400 ISO film." So film that was more sensitive to available light. Therefore, you could achieve faster shutter speeds to freeze your subject, but to stop motion blur and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Anywho, ISO literally stands for International Standards Organization. That is just the catch-all for a baseline thing in anything. It needs to have an international standard. So it's called ISO in photography, where 100 ISO is the same in Australia as it is in Germany, as it is in America, as it is in Japan. It's all the same internationally. So it's the International Standards Organization that named it.
There used to be another one as well, didn't there? There used to be ASA.
ASA, which was the same. No, not quite the same, was it?
Well, it was the American Standards Association.
Ah, there you go. Okay. But did that line up with ISO?
I think it did. I think in the end it did. So yeah, ASA, ISO. And you said something before about EV. What's EV stand for?
I'm not sure. I might have to Google that to find out. That's a little in-joke between me and Cameron.
That's hilarious.
So basically, boosting your ISO can help you continue to shoot handheld, but in the portrait sense, it can also give you that light that you're looking for, and with a dark background, so you've got a faster exposure time.
Yeah.
Now let's move this across to our landscape photography, Cameron.
Right.
And
okay.
where generally speaking, when you're shooting landscapes, you are looking for a higher aperture number, so a smaller aperture, so to get more depth of field, which generally speaking means lower bloody shutter speeds.
Yes, it does.
So sometimes you might, if you don't have a tripod handy, for example, you might need to boost your ISO.
Right.
So this is where
But if you do that, mate, it's just going to get really noisy, and I can't
I
look at my
know
and the guys at the camera club are going to say it's too noisy.
it's the end of the world.
I need a new camera.
Yeah, you're just going to have to get a full frame camera
Yep.
that has better. No, of course you're not. I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Lavender, and that is shooting at high ISOs. The stigma that used to be attached to that should now be dead and buried.
We are going to bleep that bit where you said you agree with him, aren't you?
He doesn't listen. That
He
doesn't
doesn't listen.
matter.
He doesn't even know what the show's called. And yeah, you're right. Like that, the whole stigma behind that is gone.
Yes.
I was having a chat today with a friend of mine, Luke O'Brien, another photographer down here, and
Hello,
we had
Luke.
this exact same conversation. That ISO is the only benefit of ISO now is to get those faster shutter speeds.
Yeah.
Or if you want to purposely create some sort of more grainy look, but you can do that in post. So ISO is pure, and the pure method of ISO is to make that sensor sensitive, as you said,
Yeah.
make it more light sensitive. That's its only purpose, is to do that, either more sensitive or less sensitive. We don't care about noise anymore. So in landscape photography, it's not a problem, is it?
Well, I had no, it's not, and I had 8 people come along to that workshop. I think 6 of them were hesitant to boost their ISO
Yeah.
because it's been drilled into them that
Mm.
shooting above 400 ISO on any digital SLR is no good. It's going to get noisy and grainy and blah blah.
Yep.
Once they crossed that threshold and started shooting, and I literally at one point grabbed someone's camera and said, "Give me that thing."
Yep.
Cranked it to 3200 ISO. It said, "There, now take the photo." Because they came to me and said, "But I can still see a bit of that background." It's like, yeah, because your shutter speed's not fast enough.
Yeah.
Righto, let's go. Let's crank it. And then
Yep.
they got the shot, and mate, their jaw hit the ground. They're like, "Oh my God, I get it. I've been held
But
back. I've been
but
chained
yes,
by this ISO stigma."
but the problem is they're going to go back to where they come from,
Yes.
and they're going to get told by some drongo that, oh wow, this shot, they put it in, they put
That's a great Australianism, by the way.
they take it to their local camera club, and they go, this is a great, like, I've just paid money to go with Brendan and Lynn, amazing workshop. You know, it's got some great photos, great model, great shots, the whole lot. They chuck it into this competition, and the first thing they look at is the settings of the photo.
Yep.
And they go, oh, portrait at 3200 ISO. Well, nah, you should not be shooting that high, bang, bang, bang. And this poor person then goes back to the old habits and the old way. So how do we stop people doing that? How do we, like, what stage do people start listening to us?
Well, I think it's the proof's in the pudding. So you've got to do it. You've got to
Yeah,
see it in action.
yeah,
And there's many ways you can do that. I mean, you can set up a static image on you can stage an image in your backyard.
mm,
You can have a vase of flowers sitting on a table or something like that.
yeah,
And you can
yeah,
go through your ISO settings and see the effect that having faster shutter speeds does to backgrounds. If you want to
yeah,
darken a background and you want to have the correctly metered on a flower or something like that, you can see it in action.
yeah,
Furthermore, you can see it in action in post these days. And by no means am I telling people to go out and buy Photoshop or Lightroom. There
mm,
are some really basic and cheap noise reducing programs online
yeah,
now
yeah.
that are phenomenal. I mean, ridiculous.
But I think
So
that's, but I think the problem still is, and I had the same thing on the Bay of Fires workshop I did, and ISO comes up again. At the same, people are just so reluctant.
yeah,
And like, I find sometimes it's not an insult, but I find sometimes people just to entertain you at the time and go, oh, okay, I'll do what you say.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But then they go away and they're like, yeah, no worries. And then, 6 months later, they send you a photo to critique, and it's a little bit shaky, and one use a bit of high ISO. Oh, I've been told not to do that. Like, people need to start thinking for themselves with their photography.
yeah.
And if the result of the photograph is what you want, it doesn't matter anymore what the ISO
Yeah,
is.
that's right.
You can fix it. You can denoise it. You can do
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So,
The point I'd
yeah,
also add to that, Cam, is so if you came to that workshop on the weekend, which went for 6 hours, 7 hours, you probably took, at a guess, 300, 400 frames, maybe more than that.
yeah,
We're shooting the different model poses that we set up in natural light. Um, you may enlarge two of those bigger than the
Yes.
LCD screen on the back of your camera,
Yeah.
or bigger than the LCD screen on your phone, which
Yeah.
most people will look at them on Instagram and things like that.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those things where you don't even have to denoise it
Uh,
because it looks awesome in the palm of your hand.
yeah. Yeah. The noise thing and the sharpness thing these days for me, it's almost a non-conversation with my shops these days. I've had too many, not robust discussions, but discussions around it where it's people that are so set in their way about ISO and noise and all that kind of stuff that doesn't matter what you say to them. Like the Olympus cameras, oh, they've only got practically a half frame. They're terrible for noise. Like, really? I said, my stuff looks pretty good and I print it really big.
Hmm.
And if you print it on canvas or a rag paper, most of that detail gets lost anyway. But it's one of those things that we need to really try as a collective to stop worrying about ISO.
Yeah. It's one less thing that you need to worry
Yeah,
about.
that's right.
Worry about your friggin' composition.
Yes, exactly.
Put your energy into that rather than
Yeah,
anything else.
I did a little classic mistake on the Bay of Fires last weekend. We were shooting late night on sand dunes the night before, and someone had borrowed my tripod. So I was hand holding. I had 1600 ISO, just wanting to get the handheld so I can get the shots. And then I get up the next morning and we're doing a sunrise and I'm shooting my shots. And straight away, the first thing I thought, geez, this shutter speed's quick. And then I looked down, I'm like, I've taken 20 shots of this really nice scene. I'm like, oh no, it's 1600 ISO. And automatically I went, doesn't matter.
No.
Kept going. I didn't even change it. I went, bugger it, just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I fixed them all up and they all look fine.
Yeah. There are very, very rare instances where a high ISO may have an impact on the final image.
Yeah.
Having said that, it's just habit forming,
Yeah.
So crank it back,
Yeah.
like when you get your camera out of its bag, and this is photography 101, people. When you get your
Yeah.
camera out of its bag, just have a quick look at your settings. Oh, I shot
Why?
Astro last night.
Why would you do that, Brendan?
That's right. Oh, I shot Astro last night. Oh, I've got a 100 bloody ND filter fitted to the front of my camera.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
amazing how many times people they don't check. And then,
Yeah.
and I'm not just talking, this is broadly speaking, not just talking about ISO again, but,
Yeah.
they just don't check the basic settings on their camera and go, all my cameras are crap, all my photos are crap because but we all do it. I've done it 100 times.
It's funny you say that though, because the ones that you notice on workshops, and I'm not singling out everyone, but on the workshops and trips that we do, you see the people that don't pay attention, so to speak. So they grab their camera out and like, oh, let's go, bang, bang, bang. And then they go, oh, I've got no memory card in it. Oops. Or, oh, the battery's not fully charged. Oops. And you've got to sort of talk to these people and say that you're here to do photography. You obviously love photography. You've got a real passion for it. Then, like anything else you have a passion for in your life, you need to actually put a little bit of effort into it, a little bit of concentration into getting it right. So many people just rock up and their camera's still on the settings what it was 6 months ago when they last pulled it out. And then they can't understand why their photos are not really where they want them to be. It's an art form. You've got to practice at it. You've got to get proficient at it,
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people, talk about all the things that we give advice on. Do this, do that, set this up, do this. I think practice is the best advice.
Yeah. 100%.
Just get out and do it, folks.
Yeah.
I know when I was younger, I used to catch the train to work in Camera House. I had a film camera on me. I would take shots at almost every station we stopped at. Just, oh, that's a cool shot. I'd be practicing every day. I'd go at lunchtime, go for a walk around the city blocks with my camera. I'd be practicing. So you can take your camera with you. You got a phone. Practice on your phone, Anyway.
Could not agree more.
ISO, don't worry about it.
Yeah. That's right. Ever.
Only
in a good way.
Yeah. Only worry about it when Glenn Lavender says worry about it.
True. Coming soon in this podcast, we have Dear Cam, but before then, we have the photography word of the week. And to me, Cameron, this looks like photography words of the week because there's two words in this phrase.
All right. Done.
Okay, you've just deleted one of them. Stroboscopic photography. Am I saying that? Stroboscopic.
Yeah,
Stroboscopic photography.
What's stroboscopic mean?
Well, let me break it down. So strobe is, a flash of light, and strobing means it's flashing multiple times, I would imagine. So strobe, and if you're taking photos using a strobe, why would you take photos using a strobe? You would take photos using a strobe to capture movement in one frame. So I've seen it done with golf magazines. I don't know if they still do it. They probably do it digitally now, but they used to do it where they'd show Tiger Woods' swing incrementally, like
Mm.
over, I don't know, 70 photos but all in one frame. And I would have imagine on film you would achieve that with a strobe. Am I close?
You're pretty good. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
The use of a pulsed electronic flashlight source to obtain multiple image of moving objects in photographs. Also see high speed photography.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, okay.
That's
So, but this is different to uh you're capturing movement intentionally.
yes.
So you're
So
not blurring the image, you're actually capturing. So
one
for
one one example I can think of would be
yeah,
the firing of a bullet out of a gun.
yes, okay, cool.
So one thing that people don't realize if you want to capture real high speed action is that the flash, and Glenn would be a great one to talk about this, is that a flash strobe is like a millionth of a second, or 300 thousandths of a second, where our cameras can do like 8 thousandths of a second.
Gotcha.
So if you use a flash instead of your shutter, so to speak, if you're in a dark room and you have a flash ready and the flash of the gun goes off and that sets the camera shutter off, because that's getting flashed at a 250 thousandths of a second, it freezes that high action. So I suggest that's along similar lines of that stroboscopic
Stroboscopic.
stroboscopic
It's hard
photography
to say.
is using that strobe light, or that high pulse energy light to
Mate, I've
capture.
got so much to learn when it comes to flash photography. Like I've got, here's one I prepared earlier. I have my Godox
Oh, nice,
flash
nice.
for my EM1X, which I bought specifically to do macro stuff. And I haven't,
You mean this EM1X?
that EM1X right there.
Um,
Or this EM1X. Look at us go. Look,
yeah,
we're
look at us. Oh,
showing off
fancy.
our guns.
I, I remember I had a conversation with Glyn once, a few years ago. Actually, it was when
Mhm.
we did the Cradle Mountain workshop. We did a portrait light workshop at Cradle Mountain. And it's straight off the bat when we got there, I said, "Man, I hate flash. I don't get it." And he goes, "It's easy. It's apertures and shutter speeds. It's not hard."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "If you want, like exactly what you said, like high shutter speed, black the background out, do this, do that." I'm like, "Yeah, you get it because you've been doing it for 30 years." But on the same, I'm in the boat with you. We need you and I need to do a Glen Lavender workshop to get it
Well,
right.
funny you should say that because when we wrapped up the natural light portrait one, we did start talking about him coming down to Ocean Grove to do more.
Right.
So that one, I don't know if you joined me in Bright. You might have dropped in on it for a minute. He
Yes, I
was
did. The main
using,
street. Yeah.
yeah, at night, but using one light source.
Mm.
And it's not a flash, it's a constant LED light. And
Yeah.
this is a relatively new area of photography because LED technology
Yes.
has gotten so good in the last 10 to 15 years.
Mm.
Um, I got some of the best portrait shots I've ever done by using the techniques that were explained to me in that. And it really is very, very similar to the natural light portrait workshop. It's just
Yeah.
that you now control the light source, which
That's right.
is the next level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next level.
It's a completely different world, and it's a very cool world. And that's a great plug, because I'm sure he'll be there next year at the Bright Festival of Photography.
He will be there at BFOP. Oh, well, I'm guessing.
Are you going to be there? Have you been invited?
I don't get invited to things. I just turn up.
Just rock up. You like that weird uncle that just rocks up at places
That's
when
right.
they're
I'm
not
just
meant to be.
there. It's like at
Uh,
Christmas time. He just turns up.
so October 11th to 13th, it's on this year.
Yes.
You can get your tickets from BFOP Australia. That's BFOP Australia.com.au, just .com.au. And it's about, I'm not sure how much tickets are, about 190 bucks or something like that. Oh, actually, correct that, $234.95. But it's very cool.
You forgot the
Just
GST.
like including GST, yes.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, it's a really good thing, and Glenn will be there. I'll be there. There'll be a few others there.
Yep.
It's a great little festival.
Yep. I'll be wandering around. And to that end as well, we have Glenn's Natural Light Portrait Workshop running in March in Ocean Grove. If you are
Nice.
in the area or you want to come down for a day, that's on Sunday, the 24th of March, which you can book through cameraandphoto.com.au or linked below in the description.
There you go.
Should we do a deer cam?
All right, friends.
Since there's one there.
Yeah.
Episode 113 deer cam. It says high cam. Now, look, if you're going to start it with high cam, do we even bother? It's,
Well, look, it says hi Cam and Brendan.
but the segment's called deer cam.
Oh,
Come
that's
on,
true.
come on, get it right.
Yeah, that's pretty lazy, isn't it?
It is pretty. Should we? No, we'll do it anyway. Hi, Cam and Brendan. I have just got back this weekend from 3 weeks in Europe and
Show
now
off.
have the joyous task of editing my images as well as catching up on missed Down South Photo Show podcast.
Now they're sucking up now, aren't they? They're kissing a bit
Greasing
of
the
ass.
wheels. There's
It
something
is.
coming here, isn't there? You can feel it. It's
I
like,
can feel it. Yeah, it's going to be a hard one.
there's the setup. Here comes the sting.
Yeah.
As I'm going through, I am giving a 5-star rating to images. Thinks highly of themselves. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
I 5-star rating to images I want to come back and edit. I usually do pretty much the same things to each picture, such as change to Adobe landscape color, remove chromatic aberration. There's a photography word of the week, etc. Before I do a little more specific editing on each image, depending on what it needs. Is there an easy way to make a batch process for this or create a preset to apply to each image to speed things up a little? Thanks heaps. Alison Faskin. You haven't put where you're from, Alison, but
Alliskin?
Alison.
Alliskin.
Alison. That's her name.
That's
Sorry,
Al-
Alison. We're making fun of you, and that's not fair. Thank you, Alison, for your awesome question.
it's 100% fair. What are you talking about?
Cam's just googling the answer, so I'll just
No,
stall.
no, I'm not actually. No, I'm actually Googling where Allison's from. Allison is from somewhere. She's from Wheelers Hill. There you go.
Ah, there you go. Nice.
Right. Yeah. So the simple answer to this question, it's a good question and one that most people should pay attention to if you do quite a lot of editing in Lightroom. The simple answer is yes, you should create yourself a preset. So it's pretty straightforward to do. So the easiest way to do it is get one image up on your Lightroom screen, do all those standard adjustments that she's talking about, like color, chromatic aberration, whatever it might be, clarity, the whole lot. So do the ones that are going to be standard through your whole batch of images. And then you go up to, I'm not sure exactly where it is, but it's a thing called set preset or create new preset. And then what it does, it opens up a screen with all the different adjustments you can do. And it should have the ones that you've adjusted ticked. So you can say, yep, they're the ones I want to create to be my standard preset. You make sure the ones you've done are ticked, you press create, you give it a name. And then when you import, then from now on, you have a little drop box down that says apply settings or apply adjustments to, and it have a drop down box that has your preset in there, and away you go. So I used to do this a lot with weddings, is that you import, 1,000 or 2,000 shots. I'd do the same base adjustments to all of them, and then I'd go through and pick the ones I want and then adjust accordingly. So there is an easy way to do it. It's called a preset. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, just make that first image with the settings you want, and then off that, I guess, that template, go and create the preset from that.
Yes, and you will find that there are a lot of photographers out there that sell their presets.
Yeah,
If you
Lightroom
want,
presets, stormy
yeah,
night.
that's right. If you want your photos to look like theirs, and why would you? But if you do, then you can buy presets online as well. But yeah, like Cam said, it's a walk in the park. You basically just open your first image, do all your changes. You can then save that as a preset and away you go. And then you're pretty much set. If you know you're going to be doing pretty similar photos, or you've got, as Alison said, literally a batch of photos that were all done like on the same day or under similar lighting conditions and that sort of thing, and you want to apply that to all of them, that is how you do it.
Yeah. You know what's surprising? I've just looked up a good friend of the show, Tom Putt's website. Now, out of
Hello, Tom.
everyone, I don't know where he is. Does anyone care? But he's around somewhere. If there was ever someone in the landscape photography world that would have a preset saying shoot like myself, shoot like me, Tom Putt, he'd have him. I just looked at his website. He doesn't actually do presets.
Doesn't sell presets.
No, but so that my little opinion of him has gone up a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
So only slightly. So
wait till we put presets on dsps.com.au.
Yeah, they'll be up there next week. But yeah, some people do presets. I think buying those presets I think it's a bit of a gimmick in a way, because all you're getting is again, you're getting that starting point, and people say this, I'll give you some grungy. I know a lot of wedding photographers do it with the grungy looking wedding shots, and they just put a preset against everything. Or having said that, Alison, if you want to get famous on Instagram or do well on Instagram, you'll use presets on everything, filters and presets over everything, and you'll be fine. But it is a very good way to minimize your workflow and time spent, especially like I said, if you just come back from a big trip from Europe, you got thousands of shots. That's a lot easier to do it that way.
Very good question. Thank you, Alison. If you have a question for Cam on Dear Cam, please send it to us. You can hit us up with a link at dsps.com.au, or you can just, you can send it to us via courier pigeon, smoke signals. We take it all. No problem at all. Beer donations, Cameron.
I was going to say inside a slab of beer. Beer donations. Well, we had a big week this week.
We did.
Mel H. Thank you, Mel. Mallory's back in the good books.
Thanks, Mel.
And Jenny C is also back in the good books. But we had someone buy us a slab this week.
Isn't that awesome?
KK is how we'll pronounce it. KK.
Absolutely. KK.
KK. So KK bought a slab of beer for us. So thank you, Kay. Lovely to see you tuning in, which is great.
We do appreciate it.
Yes. So I've forwarded that one onto you, Brendan, because I'm about 3 slabs in front, I think. So
we've used a few Australianisms on the show, and if you live in the southern states of Australia, a slab is a box of beer.
Oh, or it's not a carton or a box of beer.
Case, carton, box, 24 cans or stubbies, basically, of beer.
What about if you're in the UK? What's a slab of beer there?
A box, I want to say.
Box.
Maybe. It's a box in New Zealand.
Right. And they put it in their chili bin.
They do, and then lose cricket matches. Now, a little bit more homework. Murray Mallee Workshop in October is up and ready to take bookings, so jump on, go and check that out.
Yes.
If you've got any questions about that workshop, feel free to reach out, ask Cam or myself. Anything you need to know, we'll happily help you out. I did pop down to the Great Ocean Road this week, which I didn't mention earlier. Went down to Apollo Bay, sorted out the accommodation for that workshop, and scouted some locations that I'm very, very excited about. So,
so am I.
Those of you who have booked into the Great Ocean Road workshop, that's going to be fun.
It's always fun.
Looking forward to it. They're all going to be fun.
All their work. That's one thing that we can pride ourselves on.
Yes.
We might talk a fair bit of crap, and we probably don't teach you anything, but we have a lot of fun doing it.
We teach you a lot, and we have a lot of fun doing it.
Sorry. I misread that on the running sheet there.
It's okay. According to YouTube, no one listens this far anyway. It's totally fine. Cam, what have you got coming up in the coming week, the first week of March?
What am I doing? So Monday, on the 4th of March, I'm off the grid for a few days. I fly down to Melaleuca, down in the southwest.
Oh yes, how
and
exciting.
Do my little 3-day, 2-night, 3-day camp down there. And then I come back for 2 or 3 days, and I'm off to Darwin. So next week we got 1 day I can record. So hopefully you're available.
I'm sure I will be.
We'll make it work. And what about you? You're back in the shop doing stuff?
Actually, you're heading back up to the Mallee this weekend. Back up to the old stomping ground for one more summertime trip up to Swan Hill and Lake Boga.
Right.
So no doubt the camera will find its way into the car for that. And then, next week, back into the shop and doing lots of, we're doing some more canvas prints. They just keep on coming. So exciting. Shout out to Sue, who picked up her canvas. She took a photo. She did the Blue Lavender workshop on the weekend, but she took a photo on our winter 1-day workshop here at the Ballerine. Cool. And she got it produced on canvas, and it looked great.
Great.
Yeah, excellent. Really well. So shout out to you, Sue. So that's what I got coming up. So that's
nice.
That is me. So I guess that's it. That's probably the podcast for this week.
Yeah, cool. I was just going to say, a slab of beer in the UK refers to 12 cans.
12 cans.
12 cans.
See, us convicts, we do it better.
We do it bigger and better and better. I guess that's the show for 113.
Nice. Hope you enjoyed it. We will see you for episode 114 next week. Bye for now.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.